Charles Hoskinson explains the importance of a decentralized blockchain in a globalized economy. He states that he believes in individual nations, but he sees the economies growing more connected every day. Sam Bankman-Fried is asked if FTX acquiring crypto companies makes the industry too centralized around FTX. Kevin O'Leary believes crypto is not yet an asset class, but he also says for that same reason, crypto is the greatest investment in history. This is the state of crypto. Subscribe for more great content. If interested in the complete interviews, links are in the description and credits to original authors.
And the Cardano blockchain. Charles, welcome to the Crypto Mile.
It's great to be here. Thank you so much for having me on.
Why do you think we need a more decentralized world?
We want to live in a global society, and if you want to live in a global society, one of the first things you don't want is for one actor in that global society to have complete control over critical things, resources. So the point of cryptocurrencies and blockchain technology is they take those resources that should be kind of a public good, and if they're digitizable, get them into a situation where they're completely open and basically could then build businesses on top of that. But the underlying infrastructure is no longer controlled. If you have centralization, one person basically gets to decide those rules. And oftentimes those become very anti-competitive, and they actually become anti-consumer, and they end up hurting people or exposing people to a lot of market failures.
Do you think we're coming to the end of nation-state power? And if so, what kind of global structures are going to evolve?
So I don't really view it as let's get rid of the nation state. What happens is you can start taking lots of government services and put them into a structure where they have radical transparency. Suddenly, all of your tax revenue is open source, and everybody can look at it and see where the money's going. At the end of the day, you have less friction, less fraud, less waste, less abuse, more transparency, and ultimately less consolidation of power. China doesn't have a backdoor. America doesn't have a backdoor. If it's truly a permissionless ledger, the poorest person, the most vulnerable person, has equal access to as the president of the United States does. There's never been a time in human history that that's been the case.
How many countries in the world are actually considering this at this moment in time?
Yeah, a lot have. For example, the concept of a digital government. Estonia has been one of the world leaders there. The country of Georgia is also pursuing it. Blockchain is a very powerful thing, and almost every country has done some form of pilot for a blockchain-based system to store these types of things. It really comes down to, are you going to do it in a permissionless way or a permission way? In other words, will the country control the ledger, or will that ledger be an open global ledger? And we've seen countries explore both.
Charles Hoskinson,
for some people out there, when they look at and they believe in the decentralization of crypto, and that's one of the most attractive parts of this industry to them. What do you say to that? Some of the critics out there that are saying, hey, you're simply getting a bit too big, or you're getting a little bit too large here for this space for just to have FTX to control.
My basic response is, look, on a lot of these deals, a lot of these bailouts, we reached out to everyone we could in the industry and said, hey, do you want to come in this with us? Do you want to do it yourself? Like, we'd love someone else to take this on. And we don't want to be the only ones doing this. We want this to be a broader, industry effort. In the end, the response we got from sort of other investors was basically, wait a minute, some of these companies look like they might have some financial troubles. Or so like, yes, that's correct. That's why they need help right now. Like, I don't know what you're expecting. But most people just didn't want to move on it because of that. It wasn't what they viewed, their role in the ecosystem to be. They wanted to do like really safe, sound, high upside investments and not sort of like, investments that might lose. So we would love there to be more people involved in this. I think that would be great. We'd love other people to step up. That sort of didn't happen very much. And we think the single most important thing is that we do backstop the industry. And that is paramount, and we'll do what it takes to do that. But yeah, ideally, other people would be joining in that with us.
Do you see that correlation where crypto can be an asset class that really does create diversification within a portfolio that may be a little heavily weighted towards technology stocks?
Crypto is not yet a real asset class because it hasn't been regulated yet. So for all the excitement about it, and one of the reasons I'm long, certainly WonderFi stock and 32 different crypto projects, is that I believe over the next 2 to 3 years we will get regulation, and then finally we can get institutional participation. People forget that 70% of the world's wealth is tied up in pension and sovereign wealth funds. And so if they're not allowed to buy the asset class, there's no underlying bid. And that's one of the reasons we can't get crypto past $24,000. It's really hard because there's not really a large constituency that's permitted to buy it yet, particularly Bitcoin and Ethereum and even USDC, probably the three most popular right now. And so if we do get regulation first, it'll probably happen in stablecoins because that's been very volatile lately, and there is policy on the table in the Hill, bipartisan policy that's being contemplated as early as next September, which is not far away, just weeks to be looked at. And if not, it'll be after the midterms, but that's coming first. And then, of course, it'll be on to Bitcoin and others, whether they're allowed in an ETF. But that's the upside. That's why you participate. But to say that, it's a real asset class, it's not there yet. It's still nascent. It's tiny, but it doesn't mean you shouldn't invest. You should be ahead of when it's finally made a real asset class because its price will materially appreciate. That's my investment thesis.
It's a good point.